Good morning. Welcome to Horde and Tiptoe online chat again. My guest this morning is probably recognised by a lot of you, Ollie Stanley, Chairman of New Forest Basics Bank. Ollie was with us in the summer to tell us about the work that they were doing, and I know that a lot of you really enjoyed hearing from him, so I invited him back again. We're in the middle of the winter, and I guess that things are probably pretty tough for a lot of people. So, Ollie, can you just sort of give us a heads up on how things are going, what work you're involved with now, and how you see things going? Welcome. Thank you very much.
Well, Tim, thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. Okay. Yeah, it's been pretty manic. So let me explain quickly where we are and what we're doing at the moment. So we're doing about 120 parcels a week. Okay, so that's 120 families that we are feeding. Of those parcels, 95% of them we physically deliver. Okay, so we've got 5 shifts of drivers each day, and in addition to that, we are now feeding. We're providing the ingredients for all of the food at Armwood School. Okay, for the last 2 weeks we've done that. We're going to do that for the rest of this term. So we're basically sending them a check. Today we sent them a check for just over £1,000, in fact, to pay directly for the food. We're also helping out with school clubs, so school breakfast, school breaks, and also lunches for families who are homeschooling. Okay, and then we've also actually developed another initiative which I'm really interested in, and I think is really good, and that's we've started a mobile larder, which I'll give you the details at the end, but I'm going to just quickly run through them now. So and it arrives in Ashley by the Baptist Church in that car park there on a Tuesday morning at 9:30, and it lasts an hour and a half, and anybody can turn up, anybody. Okay, there's a small form that you have to fill out when you arrive. As I said to a friend of mine, if a 94-year-old lady from Windsor comes in a Range Rover with 8 corgis, okay, and a headscarf, and asks, then we'll help her, if you know what I mean. But basically, anybody can come, so there's no qualification, and we give out there a lot more fresh meat and fresh veg and fresh cheese and that type of thing, cream. And that works really well. But the difference in that is it is a small contribution we ask each client to make. So basically a single person makes a contribution of £2.50, a couple is £3.50, and a family is a £5. But they're going away, and we've now been running it for 8 weeks in Ashley and 2 weeks in Pennington. And they're going away with probably 15 times the financial value of the food, which is great. And also it's a stepping stone, bluntly, away from the food bank, Tim, because nobody wants to go to a food bank. We know that.
No.
And, it's not
tough.
something that, no, it's tough. And nobody wakes up in the morning saying, yippee dippy doo-dah, I'm going to the food bank. And so it's incredibly important that we put things in place. So that's been an interesting development. But our partners in that are FareShare, and FareShare have been very much in the news because of Marcus Rashford, and they're a fantastic charity, and they're a nationwide charity. But we were lucky enough to have a base in Totton, so we're over at Totton the whole time, picking up food for our core business, but also we're now doing this as well, which is great, which is very exciting. And then Christmas was amazing because we put out 622 individual parcels individual to what I call Christmas bonus parcels, which was all mince pies and Christmas cake and Christmas puddings and, treats, basically. And we were able to get that sponsored, which was fantastic. So we had 622 of those. And then we put out 205 reverse Advent calendars, which was amazing, really, because that came, and I know that you guys provided some, and they basically were, again, all Christmas type food. And we came across, it's amazing sort of the organizations you come across. So there's a new care home called Mornington Court, which is opposite the entrance to Ballard.
Right.
which isn't open at the moment. But they sent their minibus and their drivers down to us. So we employed them. We didn't employ them. They very kindly worked for free. Every single day, every single afternoon, I should say, in December. So that was, great. And then we were open all over Christmas. We only had Christmas Day off, and obviously, and the sort of bank holidays.
Yeah.
And we're now when I say employing, we don't employ anybody, but we have probably over 95 people a week involved in the food bank in different sort of guises, where which is amazing. So it's been exciting, but it's been, we haven't lost our sense of humour. You'd be glad to hear. We did a wonderful thing.
Perish the thought, Ollie.
Yeah, we did a wonderful thing on BBC. They came, the South Today guys came down, and and the woman who came was so professional. And I said to her, with all due respect, the last thing you need on the telly is me. And she didn't say absolutely, but I said, you don't need me. What you need is our clients. And so this is a lovely story. So this lovely client came on, and the BBC producer was so professional, as I said before. She came in and she spent an hour with the two clients who were prepared to go on the telly, and talking about how they ended up there. And this one particular client was amazing. And she sort of said, you've got to reach out and ask for help. And she explained, how she'd ended up in this situation. And she said that her husband was a plasterer. And sure enough, the next day we got 2 requests for him to quote for plastering jobs.
Isn't that fantastic?
Isn't that lovely?
Oh, that is just wonderful. Yeah.
And so she came back in. She said, "Oh, I'm not going to be coming to the food bank. He's got a job." So that's just lovely, isn't it? And then we got lovely Lynn Peck, who's the sort of the linchpin, of this organisation. Lynn Peck and Hilary Tudor are the linchpins, and they did a piece to camera as well, and it was really good. And they were on the 10 o'clock news and the 6 o'clock news and the 1 o'clock news, and it was quite interesting because the feedback from that was amazing. The amount of people who. But I then did a thing with Radio Solent Drive Time, last week, and I think 2 people mentioned it. Do you know what I mean? So the power of telly versus the radio is quite interesting. How it, so many more people see the telly than the radio sort of. I don't know about you, but I listen to the radio, and it sort of probably goes in one ear and out the other. But anyway, there we go.
Nice to have it in the background.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah. You mentioned Marcus Rashford, and it's been very much in the news, hasn't it? This whole thing around school dinners and the need, Ollie, is probably far greater than most of us would ever have considered. Is it something that is increasing all the time? Is it just we're being made more aware of it now?
Well, our numbers basically were 500% up where we were in January last year. Okay, but I would say one thing, that the Marcus Rashford is a complete hero. Don't get me wrong, but I tell you who else is a complete hero heroes, I should say, have been the town and district and county councils. Okay,
right.
I'm not saying the Conservative one or the Liberal one or the Labour one. No. Actually, I'm saying the civil servants that work there. Okay, right. They have been so supportive. Okay, of us. It's just unbelievable. And I know that they say that they should devolve the responsibility down to the councils. Well, that's really happened in our case, and we're contacted by the people from the council the whole time. They're willing to put money behind our projects. They really have. They've been sensational, actually. I mean, as well as all of the wonderful local donors, and we raised a huge amount of money in December, mainly just from people sending checks in. I mean, we didn't have any sort of charity fundraisers or anything. People just sort of came and sent us checks and came in and saw us, and it's amazing. So as a result, we have a great atmosphere within the food bank, because I run it on two lines. The first philosophy is the answer is yes. What's the question? And let's do it today. Okay. And the second thing is it's got to be fun, because everyone's a volunteer. So you've got to have a laugh, because otherwise you're not going to turn up next week. And we understand that.
Yeah. So as far as I can remember you telling us in the summer that the area that you cover is more or less the southern part of the New Forest, isn't it? Right through there. So Ollie, is this a growing sort of need, these food banks popping up? Because I don't really remember much discussion about food banks, shall I say, until relatively recently. But is it something that is growing? Has it always been there? And if it hasn't always been there, what really has triggered this need in recent times?
Well, that's a really good question, Tim. Let me try and answer it in two parts. So the way food banks work is there are two types of food bank. There are independent food banks, okay, of which we are one. Okay, so we have our own board of trustees. We meet every week. At the height of the crisis, we were meeting every day. So that gives you an indication. And that, we report to the Charity Commission. We have bank accounts. And then there are the Trussell Trust, okay, which is the sort of and they're probably 500-600 strong, and they're nationwide. And there's a Trussell Trust one on Waterside, and to our east, and then there's one at Ringwood, and then there's one in Christchurch.
Yeah.
So there are, and most food banks have a church, and I'm going to choose this word quite carefully, focus. Okay, And we certainly have that, and it's something that we're incredibly proud of. So that sort of is the practical answer to your question. The simplistic answer to your question is our clients all come to us from referral agents, okay, and and basically there's probably three that are really front and center. Okay, they are the job centres, the Christians Against Poverty, and Citizens Advice Bureau. Okay, and I'm not sure what happened in the old days, whether the community handed out more, or people went short, or there was more infrastructure in terms of organisations like Sure Start, and there were more. I think there's more community nursing, and there's no doubt about it that has suffered, and we have picked up the slack. But also, if we weren't there, would there be such a demand? Which is a question that we're always being asked, and I don't know the answer to that.
And you don't want to test it, do you?
No, I'm bloody glad we are
there. Yeah. So, really, when we look at it, can I just come to this whole issue of the school lunches? Because I don't know where this has come from, but obviously Marcus Rashford's done a brilliant job, and I see over the weekend, poor guy is getting a massive amount of flack on and racial abuse online, and that. It's an appalling state of affairs. But he's such a brave man, putting his head above the parapet like that. But he's obviously honing in, and he's done a lot to influence the government. But this whole question of school meals, has that changed, or has it always been? What he's picking up on?
Gosh, I think that the way that, as I understand it, school meals work is a school meal is £2.80. Okay?
Right.
And if you are on benefits, then you are entitled to what they call FSM, which is free school meals. Okay. Right. And I'm sure there are other categories of people that are entitled to free school meals, which the government will pay for. Okay. There are an awful lot of people who are key workers, and also who the schools regard as vulnerable. who are also, entitled to or are now getting free school meals. And of course, the other problem is that if you think about it, if you take someone like Armwood, half the children, there's 80 children in the school at the moment, and the other children are at home. And we're often providing meals for the children at home, as well as for the meals for the children who are working. Right. And a lot of the caterers are physically, the catering staff are physically furloughed. So and to be fair, we have found that the local councils, particularly the what I call the New Forest District Council, based in Lyndhurst, have been incredibly proactive and sensitive to this whole issue. Okay, but it has actually, and I was fun enough talking to my opposite number at Ringwood this morning, who was saying that actually they've had great difficulty penetrating the schools. And we actually went, on the offensive is the wrong word, but we were very proactive with the schools. And the Lions group from New Milton approached us along with the mayor. And that's when we started our school's policy of feeding all the families. And we were doing 80 to 90 families a week at that particular stage, all initiated by the schools. Right. But it does, in the old days, you went to school with your school money, if you know what I mean. And I'm sure that's still the case with a lot of people. Yeah. And I think that Marcus has exposed, a problem where it isn't probably in some areas quite as joined up as it should be.
The system not working as well as it should. Yeah. Yeah. You opened a question. I'm going to just probe a little further without getting too personal. You mentioned church connection, etc. I know that you originally were offices. In fact, I think your office is still in the URC church, are they? Or have you moved everything down?
No.
Everything moved down.
No. So we we moved. What happened was when the balloon went up, which was whatever it was, March the 15th.
March, yeah.
Yeah, our facilities were not suitable. Well, they weren't safe for people to work in. So we moved straight away to the Gates Hall in the middle of Bloomington, which is part of the community centre, because our new building wasn't ready. So we then moved there for 3 or 4 weeks, and then we moved down to our new building we moved into our new building on Good Friday, and that was a real, God moving in mysterious ways, because to have had the foresight to for that building to come on stream exactly when we needed it was amazing, actually, absolutely amazing. And it's 9 times bigger than our existing building, and it's working at absolute full capacity the whole time.
Really?
And which is great,
Wonderful.
And I expect, my great theory, Tim, is that I would love to run a food bank that's full of cobwebs, and it was never being used, but unfortunately that's but it's and of course what is a slightly interesting thing is that we live in an area, let's be blunt, of great wealth. Okay,
I know.
The SO 41 or SO 42 postcode is one of the wealthiest in the country.
Yes.
And yet we have some real serious poverty within our midst that we are coming across on a daily basis, and are very happy to meet that challenge.
It's such an anomaly, isn't it? It really
yes, it is. It is.
I mean, you have mentioned church, and you've just mentioned God moves in mysterious ways. Would you say that your organisation, though, I mean, going back to the original history, was it a sort of a church-based thing that started off, or I mean, I'm relatively new. I don't know that much about the origins of.
Okay. No. It was completely church-based, and in fact, our strapline is God's love in action. Right. And I think a lot of food banks have a church focus. Okay, a lot of food banks are actually based in churches. I mean, they actually operate out of them. At the back, out of a cupboard or whatever. So and then we were very much brought together by a combination of all the churches. I mean, originally I think we spent time in the Catholic Church at the bottom of the hill, and then we moved up, and we had the permanent building behind the URC, and now what we actually did was that there was a piece of land that was landlocked behind the Roman Catholic Church, which was the old playground actually of the primary school, which wasn't being used for anything, and it was part of the car park, but it was at a different level to the car park, if you see what I mean. And we were able to secure, a substantial lease on that, for virtually nothing. So the whole community is, both the church community and the wider community have come together, and it's no, we don't start every session with a prayer, but we are, I think that and as we all know, everyone has personal faith in different ways. They interpret it in different ways.
Yeah.
But I definitely feel very strongly that we have a church ancestry. We had a big planning meeting on last Wednesday, and we started the meeting with the prayer of St. Francis of Assisi.
Oh yes.
Which, as you know, we all love, and we start most of our big meetings, the trustee group, with a prayer. Sometimes it's a simple prayer like the Lord's Prayer, and sometimes it's a general confession, sometimes whatever. And so yes, no, we feel that's a big part of our heritage. It's
being the hands and feet of Christ, then, isn't it?
Well, absolutely. I mean, it's God's love in action. I mean, call it what you like, but we don't make it a people can't people, because people have different religion doesn't exclude them from from working with us, as you'd imagine. And so we're very open like that, and very and it's but it's, if you think that every single person there is a volunteer, so no one's getting paid, they're not even getting paid mileage allowance, and it's very uplifting to be part of it. Actually,
it's just wonderful, and it's uplifting to hear you speaking. I mean, we loved hearing you in the summer, and it was very, very inspirational. And I thought it would just be lovely to get back and take the story just that little bit further. We've gone into this area now, which is just great. Looking ahead, at the time that we're recording this, which is more or less the time in a few days before it'll go out, Boris is not giving us anything at all about coming out of lockdown. Possibility of schools, I think, opening sort of towards the middle of March or something like that. And so longer term planning, are you seeing it as being longer term and this is still a long haul ahead, or how do you see things happening?
I will basically, I see our demands gradually increasing. Yeah, each month.
Really?
And I think in some respects, last week we did 60 families at the larder, and we did 118 families within the food bank. I'd love to see it move to 100 in the food bank and 80 in the larder, if you see what I mean. So, and I think that when the furlough stops, because we're living in a sort of, I appreciate that not everybody has access to furlough, but when furlough stops and the real world kicks in, it could be a very different scenario. And so we have 3 containers full of food in the Ampress self-storage. We are full to bursting within the actual food bank itself. So we're geared up for. It always creeps up quite slowly, Tim. It doesn't sort of, it won't double overnight. But I think we'd all be guilty of extreme naivety if we thought this time next year, our numbers are going to be any different than they are now. Hopefully they will be, but we are certainly planning, and the way that we're putting the staffing in process. And actually, one of the things I would say that's made a huge difference is the introduction of quite state-of-the-art IT, So we have a really good IT system that deals with the volunteers. We have a very good IT system that deals with all of our referral agents and with our clients. And, you know, and that can leverage your strength and your distribution. So we've put that in place. Mm-hmm. Hopefully it's going to gather, you know, cobwebs, and we can all go sailing. But I fear not.
I mean, it is this sort of. I mean, people talk about when we get back to normal, but I'm not too sure. We all have our own idea of what normal might be. I suspect it's not going to be quite as normal as we hope, not for some while. Ollie, sort of looking down that route, obviously as a church we support, and I know that people do individually, but also, I mean, Mike and Jill Peace do such a lot to support and to keep the profile going. Normally, they would be speaking in church. That's why I asked you to come back, and they would normally be sort of hands-on, not able to with everything being closed. Can you remind us how we can support you, what the best thing is that we can do to support you? Can you just give us a jog a reminder there, please?
Yeah. Well, funny enough, we've just started 2 weeks ago via Facebook a wish list of Amazon. Okay. So a lot of our donors can't get out. And so the best way to support us is either going onto our Amazon wish list, okay, and clicking on an item, and we change that the whole time. So for instance, today we've put a whole load of school books and pencils and crayons and, you know, exercise books, because that's what the schools want us to provide, in addition to the items that, you know, we would normally have to buy, like, you know, washing powder, fairy liquid, tin meat. There's toothpaste. You know, well, food banks are never going to run out of baked beans, pasta, tea, and soup. Okay, that I can guarantee. We have got containers full of that. Okay,
right? Really?
Yeah, literally.
Okay.
So, but what we are going to run out of, all food banks are short of what I call quality tin meat. They're all short of fairy liquid, and they're always short of J-cloths. Okay, those three things.
I remember J-cloths and fairy liquid from before. That's right.
Yeah. So that's so that's one way, and the other way is bluntly, you know, either a check or a standing order, which then gives us the flexibility, because the way that the business, I hate to use the word business because it's not a business, it's a vocation, but basically it's a third, Tim. So a third of our food we get from, you know, the bins in, you know, the Sway Co-op, the Waitrose Lymington, you know, the et cetera, and from sort of harvest festivals and that type of, you know, get together. A third we pick up from Fair Share at a virtually zero price, but we have to send vehicles to do that. And a third we buy. Okay. So we could be spending £2,500 a week, you know, on food. Okay. And, you know, to sort of cover, because we want to try and give each of our clients a really sort of, you know, balanced, you know, diet. And so, you know, we started introducing frozen food now. So we do pizzas and chicken nuggets and fish fingers. Right, really? I'm sure some people are thinking, oh my God, but, you know, I haven't met a parent who hasn't fed their children at one time chicken nuggets or fish fingers. Okay. And if they tell you they haven't, they're lying. So it's very important to give the client, you know, to give the customer what they want, you know.
Yes. Yes. And what the children will eat. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Now, you mentioned Amazon there just before we wrap up, and I thank you. Can you just mention again, because that was completely new to me, it may not be to everyone else that's watching, but can you just run us past again the link with Amazon, how we can, because I guess these days, we're seeing the growth of, we're seeing such a lot of change, and obviously online shopping, Amazon probably the company at the moment, what with Amazon and Zoom, I think the two together, I mean, everyone seems to know. Can you just run Amazon past us again, please?
Yeah. Well, if you go to our account on Facebook, there is the direct link to Amazon. And what I will do, I'll tell you what I'll do, Tim. Let me, I will send you the link now. Okay.
If you can send us a link, And Al will put this on when we close this down. He'll put it on so that people can keep, and it'll go onto our church website as well.
Perfect. Okay.
Okay.
So which email shall I send that to you?
Well, I'll deal with that in a minute. Then after, yeah. Okay. I'll send you the details in a moment, Ollie. And
okay. And then I'll send you the link. I mean,
okay.
I'll
put that on for you.
I am to IT what Griselda is to ballroom dancing, so I have to be a bit careful here. Okay, but I am catching up fast.
We all had to, we've all had to learn this world of Zoom, haven't we? Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, Ollie, it's been absolutely great being back with you again. Your enthusiasm, what you're doing, and it's such a wonderful job that you all do, you and all your volunteers that work with you. It's a delight meeting with you. Thanks for giving us the time. And well, look forward. I'd like to say that you would have a store full of cobwebs, and I'd like to say that in 6 months' time there will be no need, but we know that that's probably unlikely. But
time will tell.
May God bless all your venture. Thank you very much. Thank you.
God bless. Thank you. Bye-bye.